G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path. I am delighted to talk all things golf improvement, not only with PGA member, US Open player, winner of 5 professional wins, 2 on the Australian Tour, Korn Ferry winner, hails as a Novocastrian. I believe he was born in a bunker in the Sandbelt on Melbourne, believed to be still the world record holder for consecutive birdies. Good morning, Mr. James Evangelo Nitties.
What an intro, man.
Oh, mate, it is an intro worth of a legend.
You patched a lot of different results and accolades together quite nicely. So I appreciate that. It made me look a little more of a heavy hitter than I actually am.
That is our pleasure. It's so nice to chat. Mate, so let's dive straight into this. We're going to do a quick, mad New York firing point here. Shoot from the hip, Mr. Nitties. Shoot from the hip. Mate, city you were born?
Fitzroy in Melbourne.
Ooh, what's your football team you follow?
The Cronulla Sharks in rugby league. I'm not really the AFL guy, but if I have to, it would probably be the Sydney Swans.
All right, love that. When do you currently call home?
Currently in Dallas, Texas. Been here since around about 2009.
Love it. Do you wear cowboy boots?
I am trying to fit into my first pair.
Nice. Favorite golf course ever played, Nix?
Favorite golf course ever played? It's a toss-up between Oakmont and Kingston Heath, but the Heath is going to take it.
Okay, solid. Course you have yet to play, but would love to. What's your dream golf course?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's, obviously everyone would just point to Augusta, but I think for me, something on the West Coast, so maybe Pine Valley or nice. Cypress. Yeah.
Nice. Best club in the bag?
It would have to be the 6-iron because that's what I've done most of my damage with. Yeah.
Love it. And first set of irons, even if it was a half set?
That's okay, yes, I do know it. It was Dennis Lucy Blades.
Oh, solid.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't even find them anywhere anymore.
I will find them. So send us an email. I will find you and send it to you.
Okay.
Best shot remember playing. What's the best shot you remember playing?
That's wow. I suppose moment or what it did for the tournament, but yeah, Korn Ferry Tour, it'd be 20, or it would have been web.com tour or nationwide tour back then, but like 2013 or 2014, I had an albatross with the 6-iron at the reserve at Lake Kiowa in South Carolina. So that played well, had top 15 that week. But yeah, anytime you make that's the only time I ever made an albatross in a big event.
Tournament. I asked you the same question. Best shot you've ever seen?
Well, you know what? I'm just going to go really fresh
Ooh.
and go with Cam Davis hitting that shot yesterday at Pebble Beach, where I thought he could send it into the ocean or he could break both wrists at one time. And he pretty much picked it between 1,000 roots and got it to spin and sit within 2 feet. So I'll go fresh. That's one of the best shots I've seen because that was unbelievable.
Holding one. Nitz, how many have you had?
Actually, just had my 14th at the end of last year. So
it took me holding one.
Yeah, it took me about.
I think we're done. Let's cut it off.
It took me 6 years to get off 13, but finally got off 14.
And you're whinging. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. 13 years whinging at. Love it. Mate, are you a car guy? I'm a car nut. Are you a car guy?
Not a huge car nut, but I'd always loved the Skylines. I especially would have loved to have get the GTR would have been awesome if I could have ever afforded it.
All right, last but not least, perfect day. What does a perfect day look to you, Nits?
Perfect day would probably be definitely do not be hungover. So it starts with maybe like a great breakfast, perfect, like 75, low humidity, sun shining, good coffee, into an early morning round where the body's actually feeling good and not stiff as a board. Great group, awesome course, couple beers, couple drinks on the course, and then awesome lunch, maybe won a couple bucks off the boys, and then hang out with maybe some sort of vineyard is close, and with the wife, just a good tasting into a great dinner. That sounds like a pretty good day. That sounds like a pretty jam-packed.
I was just going to go, hey, just go fly fishing or something, but no, that's down the list. And lastly, what's your best four? Who would be your all-time four? Awesome foursome.
All-time, man. This is always such a difficult question. Look, it would have to be my old man.
Okay.
Passed away, right around 10 years ago. So it's probably the old man, just to get that little luscious fade he used to hit back out, and he would complain about hitting fairways, but that was always great. Maybe an actor of some sort that is good at golf. So, hopefully, ideally maybe a Christian Bale that's decent at golf.
He was a golfer. That man.
He's not, but I was just hoping that he's good at golf because I don't get to take everything. We go Tiger. I mean, because I've never played with him, played behind him, played in front of him.
Tiger.
Never played with him. And then let's throw Roger Federer in there because I was always just impressed with how good he is, but just how he carried himself, especially in his later years. It was always exciting to watch. So that's a quick fire one.
That's a quick fire, mate. Well, welcome. We thought we'd backpedal a little bit for all our listeners here. And mate, how'd you get into golf? And do you remember at what age you got into golf?
Like everyone, a lot of kids got into golf, played a lot of sports, basketball, cricket, soccer for about 6-7 years. Then I was about 12 years old. Dad played golf socially, and he took me out one weekend, not even trying to get me into golf. He would have preferred me be a professional soccer player. And got in, started at 12. So just randomly caught the bug and loved it.
Newcastle or still in Melbourne?
So the first round of golf I ever played was in Newcastle. Yeah. Newcastle. So I was down in Newcastle. I moved there with the family. Obviously, they moved there with me. But I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I spent a lot of money.
We used to play Newcastle. Greatest, one of the top.
Stockton.
Oh, beautiful.
Golf. It was top 100 in the world for a while there, and definitely top 100 for snakes seen and blood loss to mosquitoes. Yeah,
yes. I remember the mosquitoes. That was brutal, absolutely brutal. Now, mate, when did you realise that professional golf might be on the JAN cards?
I realized it pretty early, not the fact that I thought I'd be successful, but that I wanted to be a professional golfer. So, I mean, I was addicted like every kid. Parents would drop me at the golf course after school. Actually, Mum would drop the clubs up at the pro shop. I would walk there after school, which was about 2 or 3K, so maybe a mile and a half.
Of course.
And then I'd stay there till dark until Dad would come and pick me up after work. So I was around I think I got to a plus handicap when handicaps mattered when I was about 14 or 15, maybe late 15. So, I was 15 and I was obsessed with it, and that's all I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to be a professional golfer, like especially probably end of 14, start of 15. Yep.
So isn't that funny? So when I was traveling with you guys, and we had, how many we had? About 5. We had 6 or 7 kind of, you and Flano used to go nationwide in between and shoots as well. I remember I started playing golf when I was 17, right? Pretty late. So you were off plus 2 or 3 when you were 14, 3 or 4 years before I started picking up. And I was always, I look back at my time as I was always a little bit of an angry ant, probably because I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to realize I just hadn't played that much. And you guys, and that's an interesting story for me because you guys used to kick my ass, but I realize now, like Jude played in his first Australian Open nearly before I started playing golf. And I'm like, all right, so I was on the catch up. That's so cool. Now, mate, looking back at your golf, and I admire what you've done. And I know and I asked Andrew the same thing, and Jude looks back with a little bit of a what if. I thought all of us who gave it a go, I just think it's led us to where we believe we are now. And I think everything happens for a reason. But would James now tell very enigmatic James of 25, would you teach yourself something a little different, that maybe you would have approached things a little different now with all you've learned?
I mean, it's a tough question because what ifs can always be, you can turn, if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike. Ifs are, with the information I know now, definitely I would love to apply it to my younger self. But I think it was a different game back then.
Not a what if. What would you tell younger James that you didn't know back then? Whether that's a maturity thing, maybe that's being married. We haven't got into what you're doing currently, but what would you give yourself a little bit of an uppercut and say, hey, buddy, work on this and maybe less of that?
Probably. The easy crutch would be probably less thinking about exterior, events as opposed to. I was looking like every young single kid. I wanted to party. I wanted to have a good time. Yeah. And especially when my younger years, I didn't really experience a lot of that. I was obsessed with golf and all I did was golf. Totally. So when I came to America and I was talented, yes, but I didn't have the mentorship of someone that I'd seen succeed at a high level and I would have, a couple of things. I would have surrounded myself more so as 25, 26 when I was on the PGA Tour. I would have surrounded myself with better players and I would have looked to get advice of, older people that have done it. So, I was just flying by the seat of my pants and I had a lot of talent. I didn't have a good swing, but I just knew how to play the game at a young age. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So I just feel like I could, and back then you could ride a lot further on talent alone. You didn't, we spent time in the gym, but I'd be lying if I was doing a lot of golf specific stuff in the gym. I just wanted to be jacked and look good.
Gun show out.
Yeah, but that's what a lot of golfers were doing back then. Sure. We were just in the gym because we heard Tiger went and spent months with the Navy SEALs, and we're like, all right, well, he's not doing posterior work, and he's like trying to get jacked himself, and he's running 7 miles a day, which makes no sense. But hey, if we just act like we're going to surround ourselves with people that want to get fit, then it's going to work. So I don't know. I along the lines of those things, maybe adapting a little bit with my swing, making some changes that didn't necessarily cost me competitive rounds, but just I think I rode on my talent for a longer period of time than my work ethic. So I just a little bits here and there, but I feel like I had a great kind of early career where I did a lot of things well too. So it's, I always practiced a lot. It wasn't a...
you always worked hard, mate. Always worked. And look, Nits, to say PGA member, that's phenomenal, mate. I'm never a what if guy. That was not the point of the question. I think how you answered it, mate, what we've built here, we've built a platform where we are completely obsessed with physiology. We look at internal, external rotation. In terms of my teaching, I'm going to teach 6-7 hours a day, and I don't care what it looks like. It's what the numbers are face to pass. So if it's outside in or inside out, who cares? One thing that you always had in spades was get the ball in the hole, and that's something. Do you think you can teach that?
Not in this day and age.
No, I don't think so either.
Unless you're obsessed with teaching that. My biggest skill was the game of golf. I just knew how to play, and I knew how to. I'd always rise to sit. Younger years, I'd always beat the better player, especially in a match.
Is that mum and dad? Is that a bit of school? Is that just how you built? Are your brothers and sisters? Anything like that it's in the family? Like, is your dad just an absolute pounder when he's playing his mates?
No, actually, it's none of that. Parents didn't like sports at all. My dad was a musician, and siblings, sister never played sports. Mum barely knew sports. So it was. I think it was the group that we grew up. We grew up with a good junior crew at Charlestown Golf Club in Newcastle, and we would live at the course and compete all day long. It would be for a meat pie, a Mars bar, or a Coke. Like it just was. And it was very imaginary competitions. Like it was chipping comps from the most difficult spots. We'd always play a lot of games where a lot of different golfers would turn up and different styles. And it was never based on, hey, you've got the best swing, so you should win. It was always just like, all right, who's going to get it done today? And I think that lends itself a lot to me, like having a swing like an octopus falling out of a tree, but also
PGA Tour
didn't care.
Yeah.
So, like I would frustrate guys. Like I remember me and Andrew Buckle, where he was one of the biggest prodigies that everyone would have thought to come out of Australia. And every time I'd play him, I'd just somehow make putts and just get up and down from everywhere. And I could just see it on his face that he wasn't happy. So, but in saying that, like one of my biggest talents not only was, to really know how to play the game with not the best assets, was I could eliminate the left side of the golf course. Like I knew that I was always going to hit it one way. And that's just something that's not done these days, where it's all about, and, you've got a great outlook on what you want to teach. It's, the numbers are going to prove something, but you're not going to change something in someone if it's working and if it looks great. But for me, it was these days, it just doesn't happen where you'll get a guy that'll play one way. And I mean, I've said this for years, Justin Thomas, where I don't think he's ranked inside the top 130 on accuracy off the tee in the last 12, 13 years. And he's still trying to hit it both ways off the tee. I'd love to see him just go to one stock shot and just try to hit more fairways, and he would win in bunches. So I'm sure he's looked at it and his team's looked at it, but it's just something that's lost in the game, that kind of what's my talent and how do I really hone that in, opposed to, all right, how can I reach efficiency, which I think is really abundant these days.
So, Nitz, that's interesting. I teach very much physiology first. Let's look at the anatomy, see what can move. And then I know categorically if we have to hit a draw, then for us Aussies, it's shoulders through mid-off, feeling. That produces face of, to par 5. And then if our shoulders are to mid-on, that's a little fade. And so we get everyone hitting it both ways. But you're categorically saying, hey, for someone like Justin, who fans it open, now his face is 80, 90 degrees open, why fight it and just play that slinger? Let me throw this at you. What does he do off the second at Augusta, though?
Well, it's, it's like me. I could always, if I had to, I could hit the shot that I needed to. Like he would have one shot that he could hit. He obviously can get it to go both ways.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I would love to see him just have the comfortability of hitting it one way and not having, there's going to be times, obviously, when I say one way for these guys, it might be a 3-yard cut. Like it's not, but it's with his speed. It's just something that I've seen where, you look at the data and every time he hits more than 60% or 70% of the fairways, he's always at the top of the leaderboard. And everyone always looks at his putting and says that he's one of the worst putters on tour. And I'm like, well, he's renowned as one of the best from the fairway and able to move it both ways. And when I watch him play golf, it's like sometimes I feel like he doesn't know which way to hit it. And it's obviously
fascinating. Too much thought, quieten the noise.
Yeah, and look, he would probably listen to this and be like, I know exactly what's going on. Look, this is just my perspective, and it's like guys like you. Max Homer's another guy where you ask him, hey, can you hit a draw? And he's like, no, I just can't hit it. I try, but I can't. But he can. Like he's being self-deprecative there, but it's just something I think's lost in the game. Obviously, technology has brought in the fade for more people. But I think it's something like I used to play when I was on tour. My first year on tour, I was still playing with a 15, 20-yard cut.
Yeah.
I actually still had speed, so it didn't really cost me in the distance arena.
It's those biceps, mate. Biceps.
Now, when I say speed, like right around average.
Yeah.
But technology is what kind of ruined me as far as going forward.
Interesting. Great comment. So why? Why is that?
Just failure to adapt for me. Like I just couldn't. I think it was around 2012, 2013 when I realized, because I used to hit down and across, obviously with the driver. And so with me trying to hit up on the ball and optimize and use spin toward my advantage, like low spin with the new technology, that created a good word would be not stress, but I would stand on tees and not know how to hit a fairway because I'm trying to optimize hit up on it, and I didn't know which way it was going to go because for me I was a pull cutter, and to get distance now I used to just close
go the other way,
and it's like now I'm because I'm trying to hit up on the ball, I bring in if I ever lose my tempo or swing a little bit shorter than I used to, it's the high block right. Yeah. And then when it's into off the left and I'm trying to get a little bit more club face and it's the pull left. So, and I really had a lot of stress on that. Like I didn't know where it was from about 2014, 15 onwards. I didn't think I could hit a fairway. So it was a lot of struggling with not being able to just go out and play like I did when I was on tour, where I could just aim down the left and know it was going to fade back. So the technology, and especially off the fairway with a 3-wood, because I used to hit so far down on it, the technology, you need to obviously get the ball up in the air and get more of an apex instead of getting the ball to rise. So for me, I didn't have the speed to get the ball to rise with the new equipment. And I wasn't able to hoist it up in the air. And when I say hoist it up in the air, it's like every guy that would fit me for a 3-wood would be, okay, we're going to put you in a softer shaft and that's going to help you get it up in the air. And I'm like, yeah, but now I'm going to hit shots left.
And you're going to double miss. And also you lose velocity. So mate, it's funny. I've still got my old Warbird, which is probably 33 years old in the bag. We fit everything X Flex in here. We are really old school. We're about to launch our own clubs. They'll be US made. And we're just getting back to old school equipment and understanding that low point face and path is it. It's fascinating that you said tech was a frustration for you. That's eye-opening. That's all we do in here. I'd say you can't teach feel until you understand what you're doing and you understand what you're doing with numbers, and then you create feel. And for someone who's such a field player, it's amazing to hear that it would have been interesting to see if tech never came around, what James Nitties could have done said differently.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. You got the Warbird sitting in there. Like my first year on tour, my best ever result on tour, like I had a third, I had a couple 6th, 7th places, but my best result was a 4th at the WM Phoenix Open. And
love that event.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I
remember that 17th when you were leading, right? That was a classic.
Yeah, and I choked it down the stretch. I definitely should have been in the playoff, but that's a big what if that tournament.
Mate, you got there. You better. I don't have PGA Tour on my resume, dude.
But I had a great opportunity to win that tournament and didn't get it done. But what I was trying to say was I was using a Nick Ent driver in that event, and it was, and I had the Warbird, the Callaway Warbird, buffed up. I had that thing. I think I had it for the first half of the year on tour. Yeah. So now it's a glorified 5 or 6 wood now, but I used to just shut down the face and hit these like pull little fades with it. Yeah, and I remember playing Ryan Moore in Western Am years ago, and I would baseball grip it to hit a draw with that club. I'd aim up the right, I'd change my grip, and that's the only way I could hit a draw because I was so down and across. Yeah. And because I had enough speed being down and across, I could still hit it far enough. But then as technology kind of evolved, I couldn't hit it down and across anymore because the ball would just fall out of the air. So I had to start hitting up with a bit more square path, and that just brought in the right and the left miss for me. And like I said, probably the last 4 or 5 years of my career, it was just ultimate stress off the tee every time. Sure. I barely could play. Like the stress was.
Oh, mate, I never knew that. That's very good of you to open up about that.
Yeah, I mean, you
obviously get out there.
I'm one of the. I drive it pretty good now, and it's I just don't have the speed. So we Father Time's never beaten, and it's this. I think I got on the launch monitor. I bought my first new driver. I think it was in 3-4 years, and my ball speed was high 150s, and I'm like, this is terrible. What is going on here? And so I'm going to get on the stack system this year. I've got a buddy of mine that I work with Korn Ferry Tour. He's got some good ties to ping, and we're going to really get into that. And I'm going to kind of use it as a workout too. So we'll see if we can get into the high 160s again. That'd be a good goal.
Mate, US Seniors Tour, I know we're a couple of years away yet, but that's for me in 6 months' time. Is that something that, on a serious note, you might want to throw your hat back in the ring in a couple of years?
I'd love to sit there and say yes. I miss playing. It's I miss the juice. I miss having to hit shots under pressure and actually getting it done in front of people. Like, that's just the greatest thing about golf, is that endorphin rush of really doing something special in really intense moments. But it's look, I love hearing people all the time that are like, you know what, it's 3 or 4 more years, I'm just waiting for the senior tour. And I'm like, yeah, so are all the other guys that you couldn't compete against that are your age. Yeah, like, it's like the reason I'm out of the sport now is, and I can effectively say this, yes, I've got a lot of ifs about what could have happened, but I gave it a good crack in pro golf for the last 4 or 5 years and realized it's not there anymore. And it's on occasions it is, but it's just not there compared to the current landscape. And so I don't have what ifs about, like, could I still be out there? Yes, if I want to put 130% of my time in and every facet, the body, like, I've got some injuries,
life, marriage,
family, like cash, like it's just so expensive these days. I can't even afford to be a member at a golf course in Dallas. It's so expensive here. So I'm sure you know where you're at. So it's look, I'd love to go try qualify and have something to work towards and do that, and maybe I will, but to say that I think I'm waiting around for the senior tour would be a far stretch. I'd like to be a staple in the broadcasting world by then, if I could. I've got a long way to go and a lot of work to do in that area too. So we'll see, but it's a small dream at the moment.
Well, mate, let's pivot if we can. How did you get into the commentating game? I mean, for those who don't know you, you're just one of the funniest guys around. And tell us about how you went from serious player to a little bit of time off, and then how did the whole commentating kind of avenue open up for you? And I cannot wait till CBS look at you and go, hey, he is exactly what we need as a new, and I mean that not as a mate, but as really your tone and your vibrantness and just who you are is such a breath of fresh air. I find CBS commentating dauntily boring. And how did you get into it? How did that door open?
Yeah, well, thanks for the shout out, mate. I really appreciate that. But I'll shorten the story. But around about 2014, I had full status on the Korn Ferry Tour, and I was still playing, and I was exempt through another couple of years. I had good conditional status at that point, but I knew I was going to be playing for at least 2 or 3 more years on the Korn Ferry Tour. And it came around where I just missed a cut one week, and Golf Channel asked me do you want to get saddled up and do some on-course commentary? And so I did it, and Jerry Foltz and Craig Perks were in the booth. This is the days where Korn Ferry Tour were always on site.
Sure.
And I did it, and the producer after it, he was like, hey, man, you did really well.
Yeah.
Do you want to let me know if you ever want to do this? And I'm like, cool. Well, I kind of said, yeah, well, let's try it out. And so it was funny because I went into Golf Channel Studios. It was I think a month later, and I got shown around and effectively sat down, and I forget who actually interviewed me, but they're like, all right, are you done playing because we want you to work for us? And I was like, no, I'm still playing. So
I don't know. It's luxury to be able to have that choice.
Yeah, and that was really cool. I was flattered that, they would, and I think they were just looking for obviously a different accent, a different flow. And
Mate, was
So
the moustache on then? Was that a moustache era? Was it?
no, I was clean
Oh,
shaven. The stash wasn't even thought of back then. And facial hair, me with the beard, and it might have been tough flying back then because it's like it gets really thick. So, but cut a long story short, they every year they'd kind of Korn Ferry Tour would be like, hey, you want to try some stuff, and I'm like, still playing, and it got to around COVID where I think it was 2021 maybe at the end of COVID where I went to Q school and I got through first stage. And I went to second stage and I missed, and I'd run through all my funds, and I think I missed about 6 or 7 qualifiers by 1 or 2 shots that year, and it took its toll. I was playing good golf in mini tour events and finding myself around cut lines a lot. Just the way I was thinking wasn't, I'd really exhausted everything I did to really keep playing, and I didn't want to give up, but sometimes you just got to make a hard decision because, look, I'd love to be a professional golfer for the rest of my life, but it's a luxury, being able to say you can go play tournaments for fun. I wasn't making any money, and so I went and did a test event for the Korn Ferry Tour, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to do more." So the next year, it went from, "Hey, you're going to do a couple Korn Ferry Tour events. We're going to book you for 2 PGA Tour live events that is the streaming on ESPN Plus." The next year I did 17 events. So I was like, hang on, I've never done this before, guys. You've got me in the booth. I started with you on the ground, and now it's 4 years. This is my 4th year, and I think I've got 13 events this year. I've got Korn Ferry Tour majority, which is 9 events, which is my love. I love covering the Korn Ferry Tour. I spend most of my time out there.
Why is that?
Because it's the real stories and emotion. You've got these kids and the superstars that no one knows about. So it's like, Aldrich Potgieter, this kid that led the Korn Ferry Tour distance last year with 340, unbelievable talent. And he comes out in Tory and he's around the lead and everyone's like, who's this guy? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you, I watched him for a year. So it's a lot of these kids like Johnny Keefer's another one that's going to be a superstar, but no one knows who he is just yet because he's on the Korn Ferry Tour. So I love the emotion at the end, and it's guys like getting their dreams. Like I remember the day I got my PGA Tour card, still the feeling to this day. It was the greatest time of my life. So that's what I love about the Korn Ferry Tour. And yes, we don't have the technology and the manpower and the amount of cameras and money that PGA Tour has, but it's really a story every time we turn on a broadcast, and you never know what you're going to see. So it's I love doing PGA Tour. Don't get me wrong, and I would love to get to CBS or NBC or cover. But Korn Ferry Tour's got my heart, especially when it comes to like being this kind of my early calling as far as the broadcast world goes.
Mate, what a great conversation. So that leads me to a question I had for you later. But let's pedal back a little bit. Obviously, with your finger on the pulse, who is the next Tiger? So my personal opinion, not saying this is you, I think we've got to move on from Tiger's dominance on how he's controlling most of the game. I think we've got to find the next superstar because we can't put our eggs into a basket that's kind of sewn up. Who is the next superstar, do you think? You just mentioned a couple of names that I've never heard of.
Yeah, I don't think the next, I mean, if you're looking at Tiger, I don't think we're going to see the next boom of a Tiger unless we roll it back. It's impossible. Like Scheffler is incredible, and he would be my pick as far as the way he is dominating the statistical side of the game in an era where everyone's kind of good. It's almost like the goalposts have gotten closer for everyone, and I think technology has brought a big bunch of people together, and it's tough to separate, especially at the top. I think the rollback will help the top 10 guys separate even more, and I think it'll help dominance kind of rear its head again in the game, and you'll get parity again, like, David and Goliath battles, and you'll see the best of the top. And until then, I don't know. Scotty, I mean, you'd have to point to Scotty. I mean, for me to say anyone else is just a hot take at the moment. But I think some of the young kids coming up, I mean, you saw Blades Brown, You've got other kids that are 12, 13, and they're Monday qualifying for Korn Ferry Tour events. They're playing in US Opens. So I think the talent is it's never been easier to play the game of golf, and it's never been harder to compete in the game of golf, if you know what I'm saying. So
absolutely.
So I think I'm a personal fan of, if the rollback happens, I think talent and skill will move away from the pack a little bit, opposed to being able to one arm a 300-yard drive down the middle. Sure. I think, and guys will have to learn to play the game again properly, opposed to just optimizing numbers and their body. And I think real imagination will rear its head again if we roll it back. So I think we will see. It's impossible to get a Tiger Woods, but Scheffler is my guy. The numbers are insane. He's the only guy that's gone close to Tiger.
Yeah.
So,
but he's not. Yeah. I mean, I never played obviously with Tiger, but I look at Tiger and think he was a level above. I think he's the best that probably will ever be in our generation. But I hope somewhere there's a 12, 13-year-old kid who is a little bit goofy and wacky and is strong and is long-limbed. I think the next phenom's going to be 6'8", fit with correct clubs, and that's going to be an interesting discussion. But I do agree with you. One thing we work on in here is you've got to play all the shots and use your imagination, and that I struggle with the robots who come in here and say, hey, I want to be a little more robotic. The art is, I play with half a set of golf clubs. We are going to launch our clubs with half a set. You got to be able to manufacture that little bunting 4-iron, and that's certainly which I'm trying to teach the young kids. I had a good kid on Saturday who could be very, very good. But I agree. When you talk rollback, do you mean ball or clubs if they go that way?
I'd love to say everything, but it's just never going to happen. There's too much power and money in it. I mean, so let's just start with the ball and see if it happens. There's already pushback, but yeah, I'd love to see a lot of it. All I'd like to see is more spin on the ball. That's it. That'd solve a lot. If you want to go at it and hit it hard, then you've got to center it.
The downside is it's going to come off.
Yeah, I mean that's why back in the day everyone hit down on the ball, was because you hit up on it and you slightly a degree off and you're going to be 40, 50 yards off. You wouldn't be able to play the game. So, but it's funny you say that, a guy that a new up and comer that you've probably heard of, that's 6'8", plays with a lot of feel, looks like exactly what you described right there, is Christo Lamkrit, a South African on the Korn Ferry Tour right now. So
yes.
Just have a little look at him and the way he plays and how good he is with wedges and his kind of movement, and the swing doesn't look amazing, but he plays with a lot of feel and hits it miles. But just watch out for him. He's flashed a little bit on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's already had a sensational amateur career, but he kind of was everything you just kind of said with it. That's coming up in the new era, which is cool to watch for us and cover on the Korn Ferry Tour.
So Nits, getting back to a bit of modern golf, pivoting here a little bit. Let's embrace. I mean, I've been teaching indoors here for about 19 years. I think indoor with data, understanding what you do is pretty important. Now they've pivoted to an online gaming platform. I think it's boring, but I think it's the future of a certain demographic that we need to talk to. We've got to talk to all our customers. What's the word on the street there on TGL with you guys?
Yeah, Youngie, you need to really capture that TikTok crowd with this new age of video games and streaming. And look, I think well done for taking the initiative to do something different. I think TGL, when I first turned it on, the first episode or the first whatever match they had, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then an hour into it, I was looking at my phone. Yeah. So it's I think it needs to be refined. I think the gameplay needs to be more honed in. The technology needs to be more accurate. I think the launch monitor they're using is not even TrackMan or G-Quad. So
it's radar-based. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. So it's, the way the ball stops on the green from long range, the way it doesn't run on the fairways. I think there's leaps and bounds that you'll be able to go with this. You could do all sorts of creative stuff as far as it's not the metaverse, but the way you could create fun around golf and bring the two together in this kind of video gaming environment would be awesome. But it's a little bit of a miss for me at the moment. And also the green complex have had some issues with that, and the putting looks a little bit gimmicky to me. Also, you see a lot of players that are like, all right, I don't know which way this putt's going. So, but I love the initiative, and I think in a year or two, they're going to come up with a great formula, and it's going to be riveting, and you're going to be in a bar without the sound being like, I can't take my eyes off it. This is pretty cool, especially when it gets competitive and the players buy in. So, look, I know it's not there yet, but I like the initiative of trying something different, because the PGA Tour has always been so old school, so stuffy. So, yeah.
Which is hence J.A. Nitties needs to be commentating on PGA Tour, mate. Bring a bit of fresh air and breath into there. Look, absolutely love it. Nets, I can't begin to thank you for your time. We've learned a lot about you and where you're going. We love to keep the journey. Mate, I do watch you a little bit on social where you get out there and play, so I love that you're still playing a lot of golf. I've got 4 kids. We play with our 3. Our little guys just come out. We play a little 5-ball at our local par 3, 9 holes on the water. We're done in an hour and 20, but all 5 of us play. It is, I had fun on tour, but I got to be honest, time with these kids and trying to instill them the beauty of the game is what swing's all about, right? Own your swing. So I just want to thank you, mate. Thank you for your time this morning. We had such a blast. And shout out to all our community to lend their hand at Korn Ferry and watch some of these young guys. So just to refinish, you're saying that the college ball that just happened with Notre Dame and the story behind that journey is similar to what you're saying with NFL. There lacks a little bit of punch, is what you're saying with the Korn Ferry. Watch a bit of Korn Ferry because it's a bit more real and guttural about these up-and-coming players. I didn't think of it that way. That's a great bit of mail.
Yeah, you'll see real emotion. A kid that just won, Josh Teeter. He's 45. He's a veteran, and he was in tears on the last green, knowing that a month ago he might have given the game away, and now he's actually back. If he plays well, going back to the PGA Tour this year. So it's unbelievable. Yeah, you'll love it.
It's still got 3 wins, and you're automatically up.
Yep. So Matt McCarty did it last year, and then went and won his second event on the PGA Tour. Yeah. So
such a great story.
The talent's crazy, Youngie, on the Korn Ferry Tour. You just got to watch it. Understand that we're not the PGA Tour as far as manpower, but as the stories go, it's riveting TV.
That's a pretty cool thing to talk. I love watching that raw emotion. That's why we love sport. To hear you talk about playing shots under pressure is why we all do it, right? And my business is based on physiology, biomechanics, pretty full on. And then we kind of just let the golf swing find itself. We believe if you look at how someone moves, I can tell whether it's Tiger himself, how they'll swing it based on biomechanics. And I think when you let a golfer just run, it's a pretty cool thing, whether it's a 15 marker trying to get to 3 or the South African kid who his ball speed must be off the charts.
Yeah, I think the three longest players in the world right now are all South African. So it's something about the water, but
it must be.
I love what and Youngie, I love what you just said there. Teach players around their body and teach someone how to swing around their body, opposed trying to get them to swing it like someone else or someone that plays the game well. And that's another thing. Like, my body's changed a lot over the years, and I'm a totally different golfer when it comes to the swing.
Though, right? You've got a gun.
Well, you got to work the beach muscles, like, so you look like you know what you're doing. But I think that's you guys have got a great program. You're working biomechanics into the swing. I think that's how golf should be taught. And go with people's advantages around what they can actually physically do, opposed to getting them to swing it like everyone else. Yep.
We actually don't compare any golf pros in here. Never have, never will. We just look at, here's the math of to hit a high draw. Here's a math to hit a high cut. Here's a math to hit a snap cut. Here's what your body has to do, and let's have no back pain. And I want everyone to hit the ball as hard as they can, whether they're 80 or 13. Just like Jay Nitties, little buttercut. Love it, mate. So, Nits, anytime you're in New York, I know you're based down there in Dallas, but if you're up in NYC, mate, come in. We'd love to have you here and get a little bit of Nitties fairy dust sprinkled over swing, and we can parlay on what you've been doing, and love to look at your body, mate. And if you're still playing and taking money from Pricey there, maybe we can have 10% or whatever you earn, mate. So when you're in New York City, please give us a call. We'd love to have you in.
100%. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
All right, mate. Cheers. Thank you for your time and love your work. And everyone out there listening, kornferry.com and we'll go from there. Beauty golfers, look, thanks for listening. And as James said, remember, you can absolutely own your swing. Remember to sign up for the newsletter. Unfortunately, we're going to be off air for 2 weeks as ironically our team pivots to Australia. So we'll be back with you in about 2 weeks' time. Remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your golf game off the golf course. Cheers.